Hey y'all, welcome to the filling station. I am so excited, y'all. So in this video, we're going to talk about a lot the gathering spot, or what most people would say, the consolidation or going sideways. But I want to show you how I locate that, or how we see that, how we can see that. Let's say that, because sometimes when I do it pre-market, it's already established for us. But today we're going to look at Tesla and see how we are actually looking at this in a simulated account. Or, yeah, this was from the 27th of March. And we're just going to go in and see if we can find or locate the gathering spot. But before we get started, y'all, let me go ahead and give my disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth, and the stock market is just one of those avenues. So this video is for educational purposes only, y'all. So with that being said, let's get started, right? So again, we are looking at Tesla on a 30-minute chart. I'm going to go down because the market, based on, again, we're looking at it in a simulated account, or paper trading, as most people would say. On demand is in Thinkorswim. But Tesla has opened, and the market, the bell has rung. Tesla is open now, and we're consolidating, and we marked that area. We can see it more probably on the 5-minute, the lavender lines on the 5-minute chart. So how do you recognize a gathering spot? We just came out of one actually right here at the opening bell. So if we would have traded this, if you trade early mornings, or right when the bell rings, some people do, some people don't. It's whatever works best for you. There's no right or wrong. I have scalped a few times, because sometimes those are really, really good moves. And if we look at this on a 30-minute chart, you can see that we are breaking out of a gathering spot, right? Which would have been here. So that would have been an up move. We would have scalped up, and then, well, when the bell rung, we would actually scalp down. I'm looking at the gray shaded areas. Let me get my eyes right. And y'all know I like to make trading fun, right? And there's, no editing. It's raw and uncut is what I like to say. But looking at Tesla, how do we locate the gathering spots? I normally start on the 5-minute, because the 2-minute, if you trade the 2-minute, whatever time frame, let me go ahead and say that, whatever time frame you use, it's what works best for you. Some people like to use the 1-minute, some people like to use the 2-minute. I like to use the 5-minute just for, so I can see it a little bit clearer. But it's whatever works for you. So looking at Tesla on this 5-minute, we are selling off at the open, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because we ran up, we consolidated, ran up, consolidated a little bit more, only to do this sell-off at the open. So my next question would be, what's going to stop Tesla from falling? Well, these are the things here that's going to stop it from falling, which is that 20 EMA right here, or it could come down to this line of a gathering spot that I had previously marked. As you can see, we use those as support and resistance. That's the whole point. When I say the gathering spot, it's really an area of support and resistance. So how do we find that? That's what how do we find that? So not to get you confused, I'm going to go back to the 5-minute, because that's where I like to look, right? So we broke out of an area of consolidation, and that's just basically where the candles are not moving to. Like, this was a breakout. It ran up. It made higher highs and higher lows. That will be considered, of it breaking out of that area. As you can see, that line here, we consolidated, meaning didn't really go anywhere, but we moved up. So that's considered, it's breaking out of that area. Here, we consolidated, or what I would say the gathering spot, and we didn't go. We tried to break out, but we did not. We failed there. So basically, I look at where the body of those candles are, and if you look where the body of those candles are, they're all almost in the exact same place. And some people count the wicks, and that's to each his own, right? There's, again, I always say there's no right or wrong way to do it. But if you look and see where the body of those candles are, they're kind of in the same area. So to me, that's kind of like a gathering spot, right? Because the bodies are together. Well, Tesla broke out of this gathering spot, and we can use the low of this as the low of that body as our low. So we have a top and we have a bottom. We have a support, which is the bottom line, and a resistance, which is the top line, right? So Tesla broke out of that. So I could have traded Tesla once it broke past this line. Once it got below 181.14, I could have traded it and that would have been a really nice scalp. That's why I said sometimes I do scalp Tesla in the mornings if I label my, I'm gonna fix that right. So if I label my gathering spot and I know pre-market that this was a gathering spot, we ran up, got rejected, right, came back down and broke out of that level of, what I had marked as a gathering spot, I would have traded that to the downside. My question would have been, where is it going to stop or where can it stop? And I would have, you see how it came down and touched that gathering spot? That was support, which used to be resistance, right? It is now our support. So that's something to think about. We use the gathering spot for support and resistance. We broke out of an area here early morning. As soon as the market opened, we broke out. Those three candles were going sideways or got, the bodies, they didn't move too high, too low. They stayed together. So that's what I look for. So now, is this going to give us a double bottom? That's it, it's bouncing off of support. Keep in mind, I always say you want to buy off of support. This will be an example of buying off support. However, you want other confirmations. You don't just want to say, okay, I see the two, and there's still minutes left on this candle considering we're looking at the 5-minute candle. That's something to think about. Just because you see a double bottom, which most people think that, okay, that means a reversal to the upside. That could mean a reversal to the upside, but it can also be a false move or a false read. So you have to wait on your candles. If you're looking at a 5-minute chart, based on the 2-minute chart, it shows that we are definitely, we went down, bounced off of this support, which was resistance for us, is now support. Now we're coming down again. That's why you don't jump into your trades, right? Looking at it on the 5-minute chart, we broke past that area of support. Is that going to hold here, or is it going to go back to the upside? Our MACD is crossed. It's telling us it's still pointing down. So we have to be careful not to jump into the trade. We're trying to locate our gathering spot, but has it created a gathering spot? It has not. Well, looking at it on the 2-minute, it has. It's creating one, or trying to create one, let's say that. Based on this candle and this candle are kind of close. The body of the candle is kind of close. Now, if we make a lower low and continue down, then no, that would not be a gathering spot. If you look here, we are making have made lower lows. So again, that would have been a confirmation to trade this to the downside based on this pivot that the MACD gave us, based on breaking out of this gathering spot here. That would have been an entry to the downside, right? So are we going to continue down and find support here at this 178 range right here, which we had marked early morning pre-market, as our support and our resistance? And I can't say that enough. The gathering spot is basically support and resistance. Yes. So let's go to the 5-minute just to see where Tesla is now, because I can see it a little bit clearer. I have this lavender line marked at 177.78. We can come down and test that and bounce, or we can come down and continue to the downside. Again, you want to wait. See how it just popped up just that quick? That quick, buyers were right there to take that price back up. However, the candle has not closed. So it's still kind of like one of those tug of war things between the buyers and the sellers. So we have to see who's going to win this. Is it going to, right now, looking at our 5 and 50 crossing, that is a bearish, meaning the bears are going to win, or to the downside. This MACD crossing is a bearish, it's giving us a bearish signal, which is to the downside. However, we can pivot here and bounce. The MACD can flatten and take us back to the upside. So is this creating us a gathering spot right here? You see where those wicks, where the bodies of the candles are? I said wicks, but I meant the body. You see where the bodies are here? And this is a 2-minute chart, so we still have a couple of minutes before the next candle. So I would like to see the next candle either higher than that candle or right above that slightly above where we are now. That's going to determine if we're creating a gathering spot right here. Looking whatever the next candle does. So we're going to wait on the next candle to see. And if we look at our MACD here, It's not pointing down as it was. So that means Tesla is trying to turn back to the upside. It's trying, and we are slightly oversold. And that's with the RSI. So that's something to look at. And sometimes we have to look at it, I always say in a line. We're looking at it as to what this line is showing us right now, because it can be it can be overwhelming, especially if you're new. I will say that it can be very, very overwhelming. So our MACD is giving us a signal that we're trying to go back to the upside, and our RSI is already letting us know we are oversold. However, Tesla is still declining. It's still going down. And again, that's why it's important that we wait on the candles to close before we make a decision, right? So now, where I thought we were going sideways, we were not. Where I thought we were consolidating, we were not. Tesla has broken down, and it has came down and made a new low. So that will not be a gathering spot, right? We thought it would have been based on, when I had the cursor here, we thought it would have been, but we waited on the candle to close and it showed us it was not. So is this next candle going to be this kind of like close to where the body of this candle is? Is that going to form a gathering spot for us? That's what we're trying to determine now. How to, what are we looking for when I say the gathering spot, or the consolidation areas, or the sideways movement? Because I look for those. When I take a lot of my trades, it's based on trading the breakout, or trading, as soon as it comes out of that gathering spot, it just does well for me. Visually, I can locate that area quicker, and again, I always try to have other confirmation. So right now, it looks as if we're trying to, again, go sideways, and we're looking at this 2-minute chart, right? So this is the view of on the 5-minute chart. We're still not at that place of gathering, together. We're based on the 5-minute, we're going down, and we had confirmation with our 5 and 50 crossing and our MACD, right? So again, I'm looking at the 2-minute chart just so that we can see if we can pick out the gathering spot, or the consolidation, as most people would say, right? It looks like we are still declining based on what we see here. So if you took this entry at the open, it would have been a good move to the downside based on it came out of the gathering spot. We would have entered the trade once it made a low past that blue line, because that's what we labeled as support and resistance, because that was the range that it was trading in pre-market. And as soon as the market opened, it declined and came down past that. So if you would have entered Tesla, you would have entered at the 181 area, 181.10, 181, and you would still be in the trade at 177.61, trading the breakout basically. And here we are. That would have been a nice trade. That would have been a nice scalp for me, in and out. And I'm gonna try to adjust these. So there we are. So it looks as if right now we are trying to consolidate or create the gathering spot, right? And when I say that is, normally when we first started and the market was first open, we start declining, making lower lows, right? Well, now we're at a place to where it looks like this what we labeled as support at 177.78 looks like it's now support for us. Our MACD looks like it's trying to curve a little bit. Our RSI has given us a signal back to you see how it pivoted. It was flat. Now it's moved just a little bit, right? So what we want to do is make sure that these two candles here are kind of close. The body of these are kind of close. Like this one is almost there. Almost. These two are closer. So it looks like we have done a slope. We went down and now we're flattening a little bit. So you want to look for these candles here. So it looks like Tesla is finding support right here on this 177.78, which is not surprising because that was actually support on during pre-market. So that's why it's really, really important to check and see where you are pre-market, because it's going to help you. It just sets the tone. It helps you understand, what's going on with your stock, whatever stock that you're looking at. And again, this is Tesla on the 5-minute. It just gives us a wider view. Are we going to find this area of support, or are we going to continue to the downside? That's something to think about. Well, It looks like Tesla wants to break this level, but the buyers and the sellers are they're having like that tug of war area, right? That zone, that war zone is where they are. So we have made a new low, and it looks like we are continuing to the downside. So do you see how if we would have entered this trade right at the open, right when it broke out of consolidation or right out of the gathering spot, I'm going to say the gathering spot, right? Right out of that, that would have been a nice trade at the 181 range all the way down to, it's at 177.08. So that would have been a decent profitable trade if we would have just, again, located the gathering spot, which we did here, and entered based on once it came out of that. And the MACD would have been the second confirmation. Our 5 and 50 is the third confirmation, and we're all under the 5 EMA. So I have other things that would have confirmed, and we are still making lower lows. So it looked like it tried to create a gathering spot here. It failed at that area, only to continue to the downside. So that's something to, we can never ever say, well, it's going to do this, or we can try to look at it and we always say make an educated guess, right? But we just trade what we see. I say that often, right? So trying to locate the gathering spot, we thought it would have been here slightly, well, here, and it seemed like it broke out of support, that area of support. So if you were not in a trade, let me say that, if you didn't get in on this move, could you have came in on this move? Because those candles look like they tried to consolidate a little bit. We looked at it and they were kind of close. We broke out of an area of support. That 177.78 was support for us in pre-market. So we are under an area of support. So I would have scalped if I wasn't in. You could have very well scalped this, but we don't know how far down it's going to go, considering it just broke out of that area, right? So I always ask myself, okay, so what's the next, where's my trouble places? Looks like we're making lower lows, right? This candle is not as quite, the low of this candle is 176.90, and the low of this candle is 176.65. So we are still declining. So no, we are not creating the gathering spot. We are going down at this point. See how we went sideways here versus down here. So the position of the candle, it in my opinion means a lot. The size of the candle also, in my opinion, means a lot. So looking for the gathering spot, you're looking for candles that are kind of close together in body. And again, this is Tesla on the 27th of March. And so, okay, we came down and made this low at 176.81. Are we going to use this area as a gathering spot? Is this going to be our stopping point? Is this going to be our support area? That's something to think about, because we've already broken through a level of support. So what is our next area of support? Let's see if we can go to a higher time frame to see. And you see where the body of those candles are kind of at the same place. This could very well be our gathering spot here, which will take us back to the upside. Again, nothing is guaranteed. I'm going to go and look on a higher time frame, because normally when Tesla stops, I want to see if we can find out what stopped it from going down. So I'm going to mark that a different color so that we'll know that that's what stopped it from going down, right? So I'm going to go to, this is the 30 minute. So it broke through the 50 EMA, again, under that level of support that we had. Based on this 30 minute, it could actually come on down to this 174.48, but we don't know. We trade what we see, right? So this is the 1 hour chart, and it looks like it came down, and the next level of support would have been at this 176.35. That's why I use the moving averages and the ATR trailing stop. It just helps me with support and resistance, right? So let's see, on the 4 hour, it seems as if that 176.89 was a previous support, a previous candle that came down and it found support at that area. It's really close to this ATR trailing stop, but it did not touch that. So this must have been a previous support area that Tesla has tested before. So that is what stopped it from continuing to the downside. Based on this 5 minute chart, this could be our gathering spot. We are, you see where the bodies of this candle, the two candles here are kind of close to one another. So that could be, getting ready to create the gathering spot. Let's see what the next candle shows and see if it's going to be kind of close in this area, or if it's going to continue down or try to break through this. What used to be support is now our resistance. So that 177.78 is now resistance for us, and it looks like we're trying to break past this. Is this going to create a double bottom for us, right? And I look at the body of the candles. Is this going to create a double bottom for us? That's something to think about. So let's go to the 2 minute, because we have more candles on the 2 minute. Let's see. Looks like on the 2 minute we have a double bottom, and it's bouncing. That red line is forming the ORB low, which is the opening range breakout. It's the first 15 minutes of the market. It generates the high and the low. That the low is going to be my support. The high, which is this green line at the top, is going to be my resistance. So my chart automatically calculates my support and my resistance. So it looks like here we are trying to make higher highs. So it looks like we are breaking out of this area right here. Our MACD is giving us a signal that we're trying to break out of this area. However, we have trouble ahead. We have trouble here with the VWAP. We have trouble with this 178, which used to be support is now resistance. We have a lot of trouble places, but does that mean, we can't break out of this area? We thought that, it could have here. Right now, it has given us a better signal that it's trying to break out. Let's say that. We're making higher highs, even though we came and tested this VWAP here and we're having trouble. And so this could have been, a small area of consolidation, or this could have been our gathering spot here. Even though it was two candles, it gave us a double bottom. Those candles are kind of close to one another. And let's go look at that at the 5 minute. Again, this is the 5 minute. Although, we can come back down to this area and not make another high. If we do fail to make a new high in this area right here, it's going to take us back to the gathering spot, right? Looking at it on the 5 minute chart. And that's normally where I make my decisions for my entry, is on the 5 minute chart. Even though we're using the 2 minute for a teachable moment right now, I normally use enter on the 5 minute, and I watch the 2 minute sometimes if I need to get out for exits, right? That's something, it's just a strategy for me. It works best for me. And again, you have to do what works best for you. I can't say that enough. This is not financial advice. It's for educational purposes. I have to say that often, right? So it looks like we're creating a gathering spot based on this information here, because we tested this VWAP, got rejected. Well, we didn't come back, and we still have a few minutes left on this candle, but we have not. Normally, when Tesla is getting ready to break out, especially with the double bottoms, it comes down, find its support, and it makes a bounce. But it looks like this is going to be our gathering spot based on what I'm seeing now. Based on 1, 2, 3 candles are kind of in the same area. The height of the body of these candles are kind of in the same area. Again, I don't look for perfection, because if I do, I'm an overthinker. It's hard for me. Just like, with the double bottoms, I look like, visually, they look like they are the same. But again, even though it's a double bottom, it could still create a gathering spot. I need to say that again. Even though it looks like we may have a double bottom or, a double top, it could still be a gathering spot, right? So let's say that. Let's go back to the 2 minute just for a moment. Do you see how that we tried to go up, got rejected, only to come back down? So that would have been why we would not have entered that trade, right? Even though our MACD didn't give us a signal. So I always wait on a second confirmation, because visually I would have said, okay, it's making higher highs, and then we're right here, it got rejected and came back down. That would have been a trouble place. I can't enter based on why did it get rejected here. Normally, once it hits a level of support or resistance, it gets rejected. However, this move here would not have been a strong move to me based on what I saw here. there was a strong down decline. Even though there's top wicks on the top and the bottom, we still made lower lows, and we went down, broke through a level of pre-market support that I had marked, only to come, try to move back up. So I was like, I wouldn't have entered here. That again, you wait on second confirmation and maybe a third confirmation, right? So this is creating a gathering spot right here, because we're kind of, if you look at this purple line and this gold line, this is basically where the bodies of those candles are, and this is the 2-minute chart. Yes, we did try to break out of this area, however we failed. We came back down to under the lavender line and the gold line, and that was the whole point in making the gold line. That was the whole point in making the gold line. And as you can see here, we are consolidating. This is our gathering spot. So this is how we label or locate or identify, or how do I see the gathering spot? How do I know it's a gathering spot? We can see it here. This is the 2-minute chart. It looks like we tried to go up, but we came back down, right? It looks like we consolidate. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're consolidating. We're gathering together. That's why I call it the gathering spot, because we're not going anywhere. We're all just gathered, trying to figure out who's going to win this battle. Is the bulls or the bears, right? Are we going to break out back to the upside, or are we going to continue to the downside? So we look for candles, even though they may not be exactly beside each other. They may try to break out of that area. However, it still comes back to where these candles are. That's why I call it the gathering spot, right? So we will not trade Tesla until it breaks out of this area, because otherwise we will be trading sideways and we will not make money. We will actually lose money. So it needs to give us a signal. Tesla needs to let me know what it wants to do, or what it plans to do, or what's the plan. The buyers and the sellers need to show me that it's okay for me to enter this trade to the upside or enter this trade to the downside. So that's something to think about, right? So right now we are under. Are we going to break this level here? Now, if we break this area of support at 176.89, we could come down to this 176.65. I would not enter the trade to the downside until it made a new low. So it needs to break this 176.65 and close below that area, because it can come down and test it and make a wick. Buyers can be there to take it back up, and and that was a false breakout for me, thinking that it's going to go to the downside. So you have to be careful with that also. Pay attention to what happens next, right? So we can go to the 2-minute chart and see that this clearly is now our gathering spot. Yes. Easily, I mean, visibly, it's we can gather it, we can see it, but when we're trying to identify it and wait on it to form, and that's what we really have to do. We have to wait on it to form, and not, again, I always say, don't rush into your trades. Let your trades come to you, right? So we are in this zone. I call this the no trade zone. We're not trading. We're just looking at this to see. You're waiting and waiting. And y'all, one of the things that you'll learn with trading, it will definitely teach you patience. It will definitely teach you, are you a patient person? Because this is something you definitely have to wait for, or wait on, or you're not able. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait to let this show you, let Tesla show you what's going to happen next, versus you saying, oh, it's getting ready to break out. Well, we don't know that. Well, if we say that it's going to break out, how do we know which direction it's going to break out? Well, I'm going to go ahead and buy a call thinking, it could possibly go back to the upside now because we had this long sell-off. That's not the case. We can very well break this level of support and continue going down. So you have to be careful, and I always say, trade what you see. Be careful and let your chart show you what's next, right? We know we have trouble here at this 5 EMA. We're at support right here. Again, if it breaks this level of support, which is strong support, this is the ORB low with the red line, and that gold line is a line of support that what stopped it before was a level of support. So Are we going to come down and break past that 176.65, or are we going to consolidate or stay in the gathering spot? Are we staying in the gathering spot? That's what I ask myself. Okay, what's next? It looks like it's showing us that it really wants to continue to the downside. That's something to be careful with. We're gonna go to the, yeah. It looks like here, this is the 2 minute again. It looks like it's showing us that it is trying its absolute best, and it did, to break out of that area. It made a new low here. So are we breaking out of the gathering spot? That's my question. We broke through a level of support. Are we going to continue to the downside, or are we going to find support? Those are things that I would ask myself at this point. We have broken out of the gathering spot. However, let's go to the 2 minute and see. I'm going to make this a little, yeah. So you can see it a little bit clearer here. We broke out of the gathering spot here under our areas of support. So this was our trading, no trade zone. No trade zone. This is the gathering spot. So we would have waited until we had a signal. Our MACD has given us that little pivot, so I look for that. So is that my confirmation that if I didn't trade this area or didn't get into this trade, am I going to trade Tesla down at this point? Look what we just did on this 2 minute. We're back. Are we creating another gathering spot? Y'all, it's so, with trading, it's not how many trades you take. It's being strategic and making the right trade, right? Because you can just take one trade, and that one trade can be the best trade and the only trade that you need for the day. Let me say that. It's not about how many trades you make. It's making sure you make the right trade. Let me say that. Yeah. So I hope this video is helpful, y'all. This is how I look at the market. Again, we are creating another area of, looks like a gathering spot, but this is, the candle has not closed, and this would not be a move that I would be in at this point, based on the move didn't continue down. Even though we came under that area, if we broke, I thought it would have been strong support. Let me say that because it had the ORB low and this level of 176, which was a previous support area. So I would have thought that we would have continued down after breaking that area of support, but we could have just found support and moved back to the upside. So yeah. It looks like we're making lower lows. It looks like Tesla wants to continue to the downside. So our next area of support is right here at this Fibonacci level here, which is around the 174 area. So we have to watch it at this point. But if, let me say this. If you got in the trade this morning and you traded it right at this, as soon as it broke out, could you still be in your trade? You could, based on your risk tolerance. Let me say that. Me, the way that I trade, and I'm trying to do better with staying in my trades a little bit longer. Let me say that, because I have, again, a scalper's mentality. But what I don't like to trade is this area right here. One of the things that I have learned is it's under the 5 EMA. Even though we came up here, my next candle came and tested it. I would have waited. You could have waited on, it's based on how the stock is moving. You could have stayed in the trade. Yeah, your profit would have been a little bit more, but you take a risk in this area right here, because it could have popped and it had a strong move up, and all of the profit that you had, you could have very well lost. So that's something to think about. It is under the 5 EMA. We had 2 candles where it moved above that, but only to come back down to under the 5 EMA. So that's something to think about. I don't like to trade areas like this. That's just my preference, right? And only because it's not a lot of activity. And if you're in the SPY and you trade that with same day expiration, you're going to lose a lot of money right here, especially with time. Time is going to be your issue with this gathering spot here. So it looks like on the 2 minute, you see how those candles are right there? The body of those candles are right there. Is this our area of support that's going to take us back to the upside? That's something to think about, right? Is it going to continue back to the upside from this point? Remember, that red line and that gold line and now that blue line we've added is now resistance. It was support for us, but now it's resistance for us. So we would need to get above all of that before we can try to say we're trying to break out of this area. So I'm going to go to the 5 minutes so you can see how the body body of the candles are right close to each other, almost like this gathering spot here. So basically, you're looking for, I look for, let me rephrase that, the body of the candle and see in reference to where it is, and then where, making sure that we're not making higher highs or breaking out of that area. So this is the gathering spot based on visually. This is what I see. The bodies of the candles are together. We broke out of that to the downside. Looks like we're trying to create another gathering spot on the 5-minute chart. Let's go to the 2-minute, because that 5-minute looks like it's trying to so it looks like we're trying to create a gathering spot here based on those last 3 candles. And it's like a tug of war between buyers and sellers. It's like nobody's there. There's not a decision now. So those look like indecision candles, very small bodies, very undecided on. We don't know what we want to do right now. That's something to think about. I laugh at it because y'all seriously have to talk. This is how I talk throughout the day when I'm trading, because yeah, again, you have to make it fun. I say a lot of things to probably make laugh, where people think it's serious. It is serious, but if you're doing this all day, you've got to make it fun. So right now, it seems like the buyers and the sellers are just at that place. So wait a minute, I don't want it. Yeah, I do want it. Maybe I don't. Maybe I do. So that indecision is basically undecided, right? So y'all, again, I hope this video is helpful, and I'll do another part 2 to this, so that it's not really a long video. I try to keep my videos really short, because if you're like me, sometimes, yeah, my mind wanders. But again, this is a teachable moment to see if we can identify the gathering spots and how they form, when the market is open versus during the pre-markets. We already have them already formed for us. So again, you're looking at the body of the candle. I look at the body of the candle. This is forming a gathering spot as of now on this 2-minute chart, because the body of the candles are kind of like in the same area. It would need to break out of that area before I would consider trading. Let me say that. So if you can identify those areas, and look on the 5-minute, it seems like we're doing the same thing, right? We're trying to create a gathering spot. Is that going to take us back to the upside, or is that going to take us to the downside? And y'all listen, we're going to do a part 2 for this, because this video is, yeah, we will do a part 2. But again, I hope this video is very helpful for you, y'all. Again, we learn and we grow together. Spend time in practicing and studying your charts, and find something that you enjoy trading. Tesla is just something that I enjoy trading. I enjoy trading up or down. I found something that I could try to make money up or down, or use it as a learning experience, right? So this is consolidating, or this is the gathering spot. When I say it's not really moving or going too far, right? That's exactly where we are right now. And it could break out at any given moment. You just have to be in position for the breakouts. And I normally would set alerts to let me know if it's above this area, below this area, or above this area. Now for the upside, it would need to be above all of those little lines in between before I consider trading it to the upside, because I know we have a lot of resistance ahead based on this blue line, red line, and gold line. So yeah, that's why I mark those lines, and you see so many different lines. But yeah, y'all, it's coming, developing a plan that works for you and being able to follow your plan. That's what trading is, coming up with a plan that works for you and having the discipline to follow your plan. Again, y'all, I am super excited. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. And I just pray that, yeah, everyone learn this market. You can do this. We can do this. Let me say that, y'all. So I always like to say, until next time, y'all, be blessed as well as a blessing unto others.